Hey everybody, I'm Joey and today I'll show you how to make pork shoulder steaks with gravy. It's like a hug for your belly. So follow me and let's turn up the tasty. Today we're cooking with pork steaks, and if you grew up in the Midwest, well, you definitely know what I'm talking about. This is cut away from the pork shoulder. Now, this is what we would typically use to make pulled pork, but today we'll be cooking this inside on the stovetop. By breaking these down into these little pork steaks, it's gonna allow it to break down and cook a lot faster. When we went to Paducah, Kentucky to visit our friend Chef Sarah Bradley for the Meat America program, she actually broke down that entire pork shoulder into these, well, small steaks, and she braised them. And this dish is somewhat inspired by that, but it's also very practical. I make this all the time around the house, and I want to show you how I do it. What we have here is about a cup of flour. You don't need a whole lot, all right? And from there, my seasoning instructions are frankly just a little bit loose. I'm just gonna grab this kosher salt, gently season that, about let's give it 3 large pinches. From there, we're gonna go with the fresh cracked pepper, and we're gonna get some of that in there. And now there are no amounts, because when I'm making this at home,
I don't use amounts.
This is a great dish. There's a lot of fat in here, and this is gonna taste fantastic. Then we got some garlic powder. How much do I use? Well, I don't know. Couple shakes right here. It looks like about a teaspoon if I had to guess. And then we're just gonna go ahead and get that all mixed up, dredge it in that flour. But now that we have these seasoned, let's get fired up. All right, guys, like I said, this is a really easy recipe. It's something I can make right when I get home from work, and frankly, most of the action happens right here on the stove. So once you get it seasoned and cooking, pretty easy. But let's get started. 2 tablespoons of butter right there in the pan. And we're gonna give it about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. So 2 to 1 butter to EVOO. We're gonna go ahead and get this nice and hot, pipping hot, some might say. You might say piping, I might say pipping, I did say pipping. We're gonna take that up to a high heat. Once that gets going, we're gonna go ahead and drop the seasoned pork in there and brown it on both sides. We're gonna allow these to cook on one side, I don't know, for about 2 minutes. I'll take a peek here in a little bit. Once I get that nice golden brown color, I'll flip and sear for about another 2 minutes, and then we'll add the rest of these tasty ingredients. So now we're gonna go ahead and remove these from the pan. Again, we don't wanna get these fully cooked. We're just getting that nice color on both sides. So I dropped a half an onion in there. I'm gonna let that caramelize, break down a little bit, soften up. While that's cooking up, we're gonna go ahead and get in about a teaspoon of garlic right there. We're gonna let those cook and soften up in that mixture for about 2 minutes. Go ahead and drop in just another pinch of salt. Okay, we don't want that garlic to burn. So once we're getting right about there, here I have a cup of white wine. We're just gonna go ahead and dump that in. Now, my wife is not a big drinker, and we occasionally buy these little, we call them tiny wineys at home. Perfect serving size to keep around the house. You don't have to open an entire bottle. This equals 1 cup. Today we're using Pinot Grigio. There's an old saying of, if you don't drink it, don't cook with it. You don't even have to use white wine. If you have red, go ahead and substitute that instead. We're gonna let this wine reduce to about 50%, and then we're gonna go ahead and add about 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock. Now, it should be mentioned that if you substitute red wine for this white wine, use beef stock instead of chicken stock here. Let's take a look at that. We have some excellent color right there. That's before we've added the chicken stock. It looks a little dark because it is a dark pan. All right, so that's reduced by about 50%. So now we're just gonna go ahead and use this 3/4 a cup of chicken stock. And once that's in, we're just gonna go ahead and add our pork right back in right here. We're gonna get it in, and we're gonna reduce that heat very, very low. We're gonna cover it. And we're just gonna let that simmer now for about an hour and a half. What's gonna happen is all of that connective fat, that sinew is really gonna break down as it cooks. So what you want from the liquid level here is it to be about 50% of the pork itself. All right guys, so these have been cooking now for about 2 hours. Actually, the longer it cooks, the more tender it will get. But I have found right around an hour and a half gets us to a minimum of where we need to be. So how will you know if it's done? Well, you can do it by the field test, and this one's practically falling apart as I pick it up. Now, if you're still unsure about whether it's done, you can always cut off a little corner. I mean, you are the cook after all, right? Like, who's responsible for seeing if it's done and delicious? We are, right at home. So, like, look at that little bite right there. Guys, we're gonna have to end this video right now. This is so good, I don't even know if I can finish with the rest of it. But you know what? I'll do it for you guys. So, that is done. We're just gonna remove it, let it sit right here on this plate. I'm already getting some of that nice texture, that flavor from the flour that we seared on there. But what's next? Well, we have this pan of drippy goodness. I want to really thicken this up. So we're gonna turn it into a gravy. You know, I don't really know what the right measurement is here. This is really more of an eyeball thing, but I'm gonna take this flour, I'll get in a teaspoon into this cold water and just mix it up. I like this consistency where it just kind of hangs onto the fork or the spoon. Start with, just a little bit here. All right, now that we have the gravy right where we want it, let's go ahead and get this meat back in there and let that coat all sides. All right, after we drop the meat in there, we just let that gravy thicken up for about 5 minutes, enough to coat all sides. While we were waiting, we whipped up some instant mashed potatoes. I know you don't see carbs making an appearance very often on this channel, but you know, it just seems like the right vessel for that onion gravy. So here we have that pork steak, that pork shoulder steak, and let's just go ahead and cut right in. Oh, it basically falls apart, as you can see right there. We're gonna go ahead and get it in this incredible onion gravy. I put in some parsley to help add some color, to help brighten it up. So as I bite into that, the first thing I'm hit with is the tenderness from that pork shoulder steak. We took a tough cut of meat and we really broke it down into something tender and delicious. The next thing I'm really hit with is, of course, that gravy. I'm getting some sweetness from that white wine, but also picking up that heavy onion and garlic flavor. You can't see the weather outside, but if you could, you'd see it's a dark fall cold day. And nothing goes better on these types of days than an awesome home cooked meal. As I said when I started this video, this dish truly is like a hug for your belly. Look, if you like this video, you guys know the drill. Go ahead and hit that big thumbs up like button, or even better, subscribe to our channel so you'll never miss a beat, because we release a new video every single week. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this dish was somewhat inspired by Chef Sarah Bradley's braised pork shoulder that she did on our new show, Meet America. That's where we're visiting experts on location in their restaurant kitchens as they show you how to turn up the tasty right at home. Thanks for following along today, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna get back to this hot dish on this cold day.